If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair is perhaps Shirley Chisholm's most famous quote. Now, if you don't know who she is, dear listener, she is the first Black woman elected to the U.S. Congress. Now, while this quote inspires so many activists, our guest today is here to take it a bit further. She asked the question, what if we simply rebuilt the table? Welcome back to Participation Trophy, the do-gooder's guide to changing the world, an unscientific podcast where we set out to discover if participation trophies actually drove a generation of greats. I'm your host, Topher Williams. On today's podcast, we have someone who is a true inspiration to me. Her story is one of love, resilience, and a reminder that we all need to get off the sidelines. She's a mother, a lawyer, an activist, and someone who is truly building the next generation of leaders. Coming to us today from Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the heart of Black Wall Street, it's Karen Pandy-Cherry. Hi, Karen. Thanks for being on the pod.
Hi, Topher. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Karen, before we jump in, for the listeners who didn't learn about Black Wall Street in school, can you give us a real quick history lesson on what that is?
Yeah, so it's interesting that even folks here in Tulsa, Oklahoma didn't grow up knowing the history. So Black Wall Street was a town that was here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but also in other parts of the country. But here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there were hundreds of businesses and families that lived here and created an amazing community prior to a 1921 race massacre. And so if you don't know anything about that race massacre, about the ways in which one community came and both plundered and murdered folks from this Black Wall Street neighborhood, which is Greenwood. If you don't know about that, I really highly recommend that you go and read that history. But it really is, I like to talk about Black Wall Street in terms of not the massacre that occurred, but the beauty that was there in the community before that massacre, the beauty that was created after the massacre, and the beauty that is still found in Tulsa today. So look up Black Wall Street, Greenwood Ave. I get the opportunity to live on Greenwood, which is super exciting. But I love Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I think you'll love it too.
Thanks, Karen. I really appreciate you sharing not just the history, but the beauty and the history of Black Wall Street and how that still is alive today in a different way. So thank you for making sure that everyone listening knows all about that. Can you take a couple of minutes to tell us a bit about yourself and what you're doing to change the world?
Oh, my goodness. I think that the most powerful way to experience power is to be able to share power. And so I am changing the world by making sure that amazing people like you and thousands of people around this country who really care about building community from an equitable stance, I am making sure that they are elevated, that they are trained, that they have a network to connect to as they do really great work. So it's not just about the work that I do in communities, but really the thing that brings me alive is making sure that I'm giving folks the power to make change in their communities as well. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
So it's not just about you making change personally. It's about equipping others with the ability to make change themselves, right? I mean, that's kind of our slogan here on this podcast, right? The do-gooder's guide to changing the world. It's about how do you go from being on the sidelines to being in the fight, right?
Right. And in so many different ways, right? There's no one way that looks. And so I am rewriting the definition of leadership, rewriting it in a way that is accessible to everyone. Like everyone can get involved. There's not one way to do it.
Amazing. That is really at the heart of what we're doing here. So going back a little bit, you were born and raised in Belize before moving to Miami, Florida as a teenager. I'm curious, can you tell us how your childhood in Belize shaped your activism today?
Yeah, I have a really close-knit family, and I had the opportunity to grow up with both sets of amazing grandparents. And I watched my grandmother, for example, gathering with women on the couch in her living room. And I remember as a kid them talking about, how do we make change for the women that are in our city, and they formed the first YWCA. I watched my grandfathers, giving very quietly to people that were in need. And so, it was always a part of my upbringing, but I think my father was probably the biggest influence that I've had in my life. At 15 years old, my father had me leading in our storefront business that we had. And I remember in one instance, my dad had to go out of town and he left me in charge. And I was so excited. I was like, yes, this is great. I'm finally in charge. And I did everything. I made sure that everything was done and, checked every box. And when my father came back, I was so excited to tell him, like, look at what I did. I did everything. And I remember my father kind of nodding his head and walking away. And I was like, wait, you should be excited. I'm excited. I did everything. I checked every box. And he turned and he looked at me and he said, yeah, but I didn't leave you here to check every box. I left you here to lead. Oh. And you didn't lead. You didn't inspire other people to do the job. You didn't walk with them as they did it. You did it all yourself. And it's one of the most impactful conversations I ever had. I remember the look on his face. And it was, I think at that moment that I was like, okay, there's a difference between doing and leading. And I want to learn that difference. I think I've set out in my life to try to figure out how to do that.
So that's so interesting. So you didn't lead, you did it all yourself. And I think that's something that a lot of leaders, especially in our movement, often don't quite nail, right? Like we feel like we must do it. I have to make this happen. It's almost like a self-sacrificing thing. And what your dad was teaching you there was that you have to rely on others, but also you have to inspire others to do things in order to actually build, whether it's a movement or a business or a nonprofit, right? You cannot do it all yourself. You have to be able to find the skill set to lead others and guide them in the direction that they need to go in order to run the business, start the nonprofit, build the movement. That is such a key life lesson. I also don't want to skate over something that you mentioned. You were raised by your grandparents are the first YWCA in Belize?
Yes, my grandma. My grandma is the first head of the YWCA in Belize.
That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? And she just passed away recently. And we had an opportunity to just celebrate her and reflect on her life and on all that she had done. And her motto was family first, service always. And so I was raised in that. Family first, service always. It's the way that I live my life.
That's amazing. What an incredible opportunity to have such strong and inspirational family leaders. I mean, I feel like many people don't have that. What a blessing that you got to have. And the opportunity for you to pass that on to your kids is really special. So thank you for sharing that. I want to shift gears a little bit here. You used to work in a women's state prison in Florida, and you actually credit that time as driving you into activism. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, I had gotten to the place where I was like, I just need a job. I need to work and make money, put food on the table. I had young babies. And so I found myself working in both the male prison and the women prison. But the situation that really impacted me to move on from that and really get into activism through going to law school was I had an inmate that came into my office. I was a classification officer at the time. I started out as a records clerk, worked my way up over the 5 years that I was there, worked as a classification officer, which is really like a caseworker on the outside. And I had an inmate come into my office, and it's written on my memory how she rocked back and forth, sort of trying to self-soothe. She was rocking back and forth, and she was mumbling under her breath, "It's okay, it's okay. My parents are coming to get me. I don't belong here." And through talking to her and then afterwards reading more of her record, I found out that she had gone to school. Her parents, her family was from Jamaica. They sent her to Florida to go to school. And while she was in school, she was really quiet and lonely. And she met a guy who was also from Jamaica. And he asked her to bring something back for him. And she didn't think anything of it. She went down to Jamaica for summer break. On her way back, his aunt gave her something, a package, to bring back up. And she didn't realize that she was trafficking. She got stopped at the airport in Miami and was immediately taken to jail. And no matter how she tried to tell them, "This is not mine. Here's this guy's name. Here's the aunt who gave it to me. Here's where we were." She tried to give them facts, and they didn't want to hear it. And they fast tracked her to me. So by the time I had gotten her, she had spent a year in county jail, and her family had tried everything, spent all of their money to try to get her out. Her grandmother passed away in the meantime from heartbreak. Her parents ended up splitting up, just ruined her life. And she's sitting in front of me, and I'm like, why? Why did this happen? This could have been me. There was a time when I would not have thought twice. Oh my gosh, yes, you want me to bring something for you? Absolutely.
Yeah.
This could have been me. It could have been my cousins. It could have been my little sister. And I was just heartbroken. And when she left my office, I said, I will never feel this helpless again. I will not be on the back end of someone's story. I am going to find a way to impact people's lives in any way that I can. I'm going to find a way to do that on the front end, because I cannot just sit here and receive people into a life sentence. Like, it just isn't something that I'm willing to do. And so I started from there being like, where's my starting point? What can I do? And because my grandfather and my uncles were in law, I had always wanted to go to law school. And I made the decision right then and there. I'm going back to get my bachelor's degree. I'm going to get my law degree. I am going to work to figure out how I can change people's lives so that they can have the agency to change other people's lives, right? Like, so working out from concentric circles, how can I be the best version of a leader that I can to make sure that other people have that ability as well? And that's the way that we change the world.
I will not be on the back end of someone's story is such a incredible and powerful thing to say. And I think that is really the catalyst that pushes a lot of people into activism, right? They see something or they witness something that's unjust or that is wrong, and they say exactly what you said, though the rest of us may not say it quite as beautifully. I will not be on the back end of someone's story. That is really the impetus, it sounds like, that pushed you into the work that you do today. And that's so powerful. Did you ever find out what happened to this person?
I did not. When I first went back to get my degree, I continued to work at the prison. I continued to check up on her. I tried to make sure that she had community. And honestly, it broke my heart so badly that it was a self-care thing I think I did at the time, where I was like, I've got to focus on what I can do because I'm spiraling into what I can't change, right? And so I have not looked her up. Maybe one day I'll get the courage to do it. But yeah, so far I've just sent up prayers, and, that's the best I've got.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. That's really incredible. So you had this experience, and it pushed you to go back to school, to become a lawyer, and now you run a national training organization. When along that journey did you realize that you really were a change maker?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think I ever stopped to think about it. I thought about it in terms of like this podcast, and like as I started to like reflect on my journey and how I got here, I don't know that I ever thought about it. And I realized that it's because of that word change maker, because I'm constantly in the mode of making change, but it always feels like there is more change. I think it's just like I'm in the work, and it's kind of what I'm doing. I would say that this year has been a different year for me. Being the president and CEO of New Leaders Council has given me, it has stretched me in a way that I didn't think was possible and beyond where I think I could go. And so if you ask me now if I am a change maker, I would say, yeah, absolutely yes. And I know that for sure, because I think this year I've come into an authenticity that is bold and unafraid of being way out in front, if that's what's necessary, or being way in the background, if that's necessary. And so I think maybe I just realized that I am a change maker. And
oh my gosh.
in all of the senses of the word.
In real time, on the pod. Breaking news, you heard it here first, folks.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Well, I know that you're a change maker. Our listeners definitely know that you're a change maker. But if somebody is listening and they are saying to themselves, well, Karen, I too am working in whatever job I need to work in to make it happen for me, for my family, for my kids, but I want to be a change maker. How do they start? I mean, you don't go from just working an admin job in a government agency to being the executive director or the CEO and president of a national training organization. What is the first step that somebody should take to become the change maker that they want to be?
Yeah. Self-work is so necessary. And so I think that first step is really identifying the ways in which you are a leader already, you are a change maker already. And, one of the places that I am a change maker and the most proud of it is in my home. To be able to, help my children understand how they want to make change is like a thing that I do. And I know that mothers are doing it everywhere. People in relationships are doing it, for each other. And so I think that self-work is really an important first step in understanding the kind of leader, the kind of change maker you want to be. And then investing in that is really important. But also, as you do that, there are so many ways that you can today make change. My neighbor across the street may be elderly and maybe they need groceries. It's literally just looking at the world differently from a place of, it's not just about me, it's about everyone.
Because it's not really about just saying, okay, I'm going to be, you don't set out on this journey to become some kind of, national leader, right? It's about looking around you in your immediate environment and identifying places that you can make a difference, right? Not just, setting out to do some big grand thing, but about trying to make impact where you are now and then chasing where that goes. And that eventually leads you to places you never would have imagined being, right? So like today, right, it's led you to being the CEO and president of New Leaders Council. Can you tell us a bit about that organization?
Absolutely. New Leaders Council is a national organization that does leadership development for folks who we call proximate leaders. A proximate leader is probably any one of the listeners of this podcast. It's folks who are in their communities, closest to their communities' challenges, but they're also closest to their communities' opportunities as well. And so these are the folks who know their neighbors' names. They've got their finger on the pulse of what's happening in that community. New Leaders Council invests, develops, connects those folks to a network that allows them to make their change maker dreams, their change maker vision a reality. And so we have a 6-month leadership development training institute. And once folks go, become fellows and graduate from that training, they then become lifelong alums of a really great network of 13,000 alums across the country. So I really encourage folks to just take a look at our website to find out more, newleaderscouncil.org.
And I should say I was a fellow of New Leaders Council in 2014, right, which was kind of a long time ago now. So I'm not so much maybe not so much a new leader these days, but I mean, I will say for me personally, it definitely has opened a lot of doors and opportunities for me. I've met a lot of people. I've made connections, built relationships, gotten jobs through that network. And so it really is something special. And it's so amazing that you are leading it today.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. And I'm really excited that we're getting ready to launch some alumni programs for those of us who aren't exactly new leaders. We're getting ready to mobilize and activate our 13,000 alums so that we can mobilize and engage and be, do change making on a grander scale than doing it as individuals. We're going to do it as a collective network. So I'm super excited about that.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear all about it. Okay, Karen, now we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions about South Florida. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. This or that. Miami or Fort Lauderdale?
Fort Lauderdale.
Salsa or reggae?
Reggae.
Nightlife or beach day?
Beach day.
I knew you were going to say that. I just knew it.
Yeah.
Sunrise yoga or sunset cruise?
It's so hard. Sunrise yoga.
Ooh, okay. Flamingos or manatees?
Flamingos.
Me too. I'm a flamingo guy myself.
Yeah.
Flip-flops or barefoot in the sand?
Barefoot in the sand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Most important question, Florida or Oklahoma?
Why? Why? Oh my God, this is Oklahoma today, specifically Tulsa, Oklahoma today. Yes.
Amazing. All right. That concludes. I won't ask you any more rapid fire this or that questions to put you on the spot, but I do have one last question, which is the most important question of this podcast. Did you receive a participation trophy and what was it for?
Yes, I received a participation trophy for a relay race that I ran that I came in, I think, second to last. Amazing. And I still got a cute little blue ribbon, and it didn't have a place on it, but it was just a blue little ribbon that maybe it said participant or something like that. But I was not excited about it. I wanted to win, even though, running was not my thing and I knew it wasn't my thing. But still, I wanted to win.
I mean, yeah, I also like to win. So I totally relate to that. I suppose second to last is just another kind of second place, right? I mean,
thank you.
It's all perspective, right, Karen?
It's all in how you tell the story.
Exactly. Okay, Karen, where can people find you online to follow and connect?
Yeah, I'm super easy to find. If you search my name, Karen Pandy-Cherry, you'll find me on all platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of the things. But then also, if you want to follow New Leaders Council, you can search that as well. New Leaders Council on all platforms. I'm looking forward to connecting.
Thank you so much, Karen, for being on the podcast today and for sharing with all of us your story and inspiring us to be change makers and do-gooders and getting out there to change the world. I really appreciate having you as a guest.
I appreciate being here. Thank you so much, Topher.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Participation Trophy. I'm your host, Topher Williams. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Participation Trophy Podcast, and follow me on Instagram at @TophMcGof so you don't miss one single thing. Until next time, remember, it's up to us to make the world that we want to see. Bye!